Moderator will be our dear colleague from Irish television, Michael Lally, a journalist with international experience from Europe to United States and back, the guy who is also working for a company which is dealing with different challenges quite radically, and his guests will be from EBU, from RTP, and from TV2 Finn in Denmark. So first of all, Michael Lally, please welcome him. Then Thomas Grond from EBU. I hope he's here also, ready to go upstairs. Then João Pedro Galveias from RTP. And our colleague Esben Seerup from TV2 Finn, if I pronounce correctly. Welcome everybody.
Good afternoon, and thank you very much for that kind and very generous introduction. My colleague Joe Reddington was supposed to moderate this afternoon's session, but one of us, because of the event in Manchester, one of us had to stay at home and do the day job, and there are certain advantages to being the boss. So Joe unfortunately couldn't come, so I'm standing in. Millennials. First of all, I'm going to ask our panel in 30 seconds each to introduce themselves, because I don't know a lot about them. So I'm going to ask each one, right to left, to introduce themselves in 30 seconds, and we'll start the discussion.
Thomas Grond, Swiss citizen working in Geneva for an international organization, not a millennial, well, maybe, but from another millennium. And at DBU, I'm the head of young audiences, so taking care of everything which is somehow related to young people and the audiences we might actually miss.
Hi everybody, I'm João Galveias, I'm from RTP Portugal. I manage all the digital activity of the public broadcasters in Portugal. And my background actually was chemistry, and then media, radio, TV, and now multimedia digital.
And I'm Esben Seerup. I'm a CEO at TV2 Fyn, one of 8 regional television stations in Denmark. I have 3 children. My wife is a journalist as well, and we have tried all their upbringing to force them to read newspapers, watch television, listen to radio, and we failed. So that's my background.
Okay, that sets the scene. That's the most immediate part of the scene setter. Earlier, think back to the first session this morning, and actually we have the wrong title because there's no such a thing as millennials, as they discovered in Canada, so we can scrub that one. Dion, well, he told us forget about television, so that's that one gone. So what are we really talking about? We're talking about content that we're trying to make available to an audience that's not watching us. And what fits into that category is a particular age group. So it's both the content and the platform. That's roughly where we're at. Going to kick off with Thomas first of all yours.
So, first question, what remote is it? We'll see. This one, exactly. Thanks for being here. Thanks for listening to what I'm trying to convince you to believe. I already told you who I am. I'm working at the EBU, which is a bit of a strange animal. We are the organization of 73 members in 56 countries in Europe, operating more or less 820 TV services, 1156 radio services, and we still do not have the online services on this slide, which is not very up to date. 122 languages and a potential of more than 1 billion people. So if actually all public service media companies would work together, we'd have a very interesting reach, definitely higher than Netflix and Friends. I'm going to talk to you about Generation What. Generation What is an initiative which got started under the name Génération Quoi in 2013 and 14 in France. It was France Télévisions, UPIAN, and Yami 2 who created actually a questionnaire, asked people out there in an online questionnaire, specifically young people, about life, politics, belief, family. The questionnaire has 149 questions, and surprisingly enough, they had a very, very high feedback from young people. Politicians in France at the time were somehow shocked that they were not loved by young people. What a surprise. And because it worked that well, because France Télévisions was able to start a dialogue with young people to a certain extent, we thought, well, let's do that on a bigger scale. Let's bring that to Europe. And if you have a look at the map up there, the green ones, the dark green ones, were the, 14 countries which actually participated officially. The light green ones are countries from which we have answers as well. They had no traditional broadcasting coverage in the other countries. Nevertheless, they knew about Generation What and they participated in the questionnaire, which is very interesting. So in the end, we had 35 countries where we got answers from, and if you think that an average of 100 questions were answered by participant, we're talking about 100 million answers. That's not bad. It's rather difficult to analyze the answers as well because it's not a purely scientific exercise. You have to keep in mind that people answering here are self-motivated. So we're talking again about people who would like to participate, who would like to have their voice heard. So the very low educated are in very few in this questionnaire, which is, from the scientific point of view, a drawback. From the idea of the project, not at all, because in the end we have 1 million people answering. And the blue one, just quickly, the blue one is the next initiative we're starting. That's Generation What in the Arabic region. That's supposed to start by the end of the year, with more or less the same 149 questions we had in Europe. But in order to give you an idea what it is, let's have a look at the trailer, please.
Es gibt zu viel Individualismus. Avoir 20 ans, c'est le plus bel âge de la vie.
No, non sono d'accordo.
Sì.
I don't know. I know.
Goed is er toch groot hoor, denk ik.
Wij succesvol.
Geld.
Ja.
Wyt ti erioed wedi masturbio?
Es wird wirklich sehr privat.
Die Frage will ich nicht beantworten.
Moi, non, ça m'intéresse pas.
Qu'est-ce qu'il va voir ce que je suis en train de dire?
My generation be and really self-absorbed.
Wir leben schon in einer kleinen Seifenblase hier.
So that's what it is. It's an online questionnaire, but not only, obviously. We see afterwards what else is in there. The system is very easy. You start the questionnaire, which is still online in Ireland and in the Italian-speaking part of Switzerland. For the rest of the participants, it's closed. So you start it, you have to give
some basic information which is needed afterwards to compare yourself to the rest of all the participants. Again, not scientific, because here we just take the whole pot of answers and compare what you said to the whole rest in your age group, in your education, your sex, etc. Questions we have are some very easy questions. Are you Facebook friends with your parents? Yes, no. Facebook and parents fits together. Facebook and young people, not really, not anymore. Or, or compared to your life, you feel like your children's future is going to be better, worse, similar? And there you already have your answer in the middle. So here I said, well, worth overall, a bit pessimistic. And then you get the comparison to everybody else. All participants are taken, and then we see, okay, 40% are as pessimistic as I am, 36% are a bit better off with their ideas. Or this question, a very interesting one: does society give you the chance to show what you're really capable of? Now, when you're between 18 and 34, and everybody else could answer, obviously, as well, in the beginning you tell how old you are, and then you're okay. So, does society give you the chance? Oops. We have a slight difference here in Europe. And especially in Italy, we have incredibly high numbers of young people saying, no, society does not give me a chance. And that's a problem for the future. That's something we figured out here. Another one is the one about the future. 62% say yes, optimistic. But strange enough, they said here, oops, no, I don't have a chance. That's a good sign, in my opinion, because it's not that. So we will not have a revolution right out the door, I suppose. Immigration, interesting enough here. And that's stuff you can watch online. You see the online link afterwards, the URL. Interesting enough, Greece. Remember Greece? Lots of immigrants, huge problems. According to Generation 1, to the participants, it's actually a good thing, immigration. Nationalism, 66% think it's a negative evolution, which gives me, personal opinion here, some hope. And that related or linked to the immigrant question, why not? And now, any politicians in here? Oh. Nope. People do not trust in politicians. We are media people, we are not really better off. They don't trust in us. Oops. Now, totally is inexistent, and some people are not at all. People do not trust media, not at all. And again, participants in this survey, it's not scientific, but we're talking about 1 million people answering. And that's kind of a bad sign. It's true, we did not define what media is. But it's really about trust. It's about what we've heard before, fact-checking. Is it true what they tell us or not? A bit iffy. Now, we've seen some maps, some results. As I said, everything online, you can watch, you can play around with that. You can lose hours online with that stuff. And that was the beginning of Generation 1. So people went there and they answered. There were as well other types of interaction depending on the type of organization you are working for. So for example, in the Czech Republic, we had a cooperation between Czech television and Czech radio. That's something which, that's what they told me, doesn't happen too often, that these two organizations work together because we have two different companies. And for example, Czech radio had a lot of stuff going on in the streets, in the sense of they opened a new radio studio for a youth radio station. They had a big party around that in the street, bands, etc., plus Generation 1. So they were actually collecting answers there with a very good success. They had expectations in the beginning of the project 4 weeks after the start of the project, they had already more answers and participants than they would have expected for the whole project. So they were very happy. RAI, for example, they had a different approach. They went for a TV show, a classical TV show, but hosted by young YouTube stars, Benji e Fede. And in that show, they had again very known Italian singers, sports stars, answering questions from Generation What. And these questions sometimes are a bit spicy. Like, for example, have you been ever drunk with your parents? Did you ever make love outside? That's one of the questions. And obviously other very serious questions as well, so it's a mix. So RAI had a classical TV show, worked very well. Then next one is Belgium, RTBF and VRT, again, one country, 2 different organizations, 2 different languages. But they started to work together for Generation What, and VRT, especially VRT, actually employed 30, if I'm not mistaken, young non-journalists, taking care of the community out there in the world. So they had basically 30 people sitting there producing social media content. That worked very well. It was a tough job they did there because they had to train these people, but that way they used the right language for the people they wanted to approach in the country out there. And ORF, as a last example, ORF had every day 1 question on Ö3, which is their most popular radio station. So 149 questions, 1 question a day. And in fact, in Austria, more than 1% of the population participated in Generation What. That's a huge number. And there, in fact, they are representative as well from the statistical point of view, from the scientific point of view. So, and then others, for example, the Romansh-speaking guys in Switzerland made a lot of videos for Facebook. Some did work on YouTube, some used Snapchat, really up to the organization. Anyways, you could work in streets, you didn't have to, because we have something which are the web modules. Web modules are basically people answering the questions, and while answering the questions, we did film them. Short example. Yes.
Politicians no longer have any power.
No longer have any power.
No idea.
Yeah, I haven't a clue.
No idea.
I do not agree. They have plenty of power.
They have so much power, it's scary. They can get away with far too much.
I feel like we probably don't really know what goes on behind.
I think they probably have a lot of power.
They probably have a lot of power, but I don't know if there's other people influencing their decisions.
And so now we've seen the Irish version of that, and obviously as we have many countries participating, we just edited everything together. So we have as well international versions. Thanks to YouTube, we use a YouTube playout. You can have subtitles in your language. So these are the web modules. What else happened? We had actually, as a result, some recommendations for example, politicians. One of the results of Generation What is young people actually would like to stay within the European Union. So no Brexit, no Frexit, no whatever for young people. But they think Europe is too complicated. No big news here, we know that. But that's one of the recommendations we and our members could make to politicians. Folks, reconsider how you do stuff, because otherwise you will lose young people. And in the end, we created a short animation summing up the whole findings. These are 2 minutes animation. Please have a look at it. These are some of the, for us, interesting results. go online afterwards and have a look at all the questions and all the answers, because it's really fun to have a look at it, and it's interesting to think, what would my answer be to a question? Now, first, please, the animation.
I am a part of Generation What, an undefined generation. Not because we don't know ourselves, but because as young Europeans, our voice often isn't heard. So when we were asked about our opinions, we responded. And my one voice became nearly 1 million.
My generation is colorful. We couldn't live without music. We couldn't live without books. And although we're always connected to the digital world, there are other things that are more important.
Sex is a personal matter, but that doesn't mean we're not open and curious about exploring.
We are optimistic about our future as young Europeans, but don't feel in control of our own destiny. We wonder whether our education has really prepared us for the job market.
And without society gives us the chance to show what we are capable of.
Most politicians today are corrupt, and we don't have trust in politics or the media.
We are still keen to vote, care about building a better future, and are willing to come together and demonstrate against the generation in power, but we want to fight for our countries.
I'm part of an empathetic generation and want to live in a world without boundaries that welcomes refugees. And although we don't necessarily trust Europe, we don't want our countries to leave.
We believe in the European idea, but we know that it could and should be better organized.
And although we do share some opinions, we are still an incredibly diverse generation, with very different needs, wishes, hopes and fears. We want our many voices to be heard, because we're ignited with energy to participate together across generations in shaping our continent. Generation What is a first step. Let's continue.
That's indeed the first step. That's opening communication between, for example, young people and public service media companies. And now, what our EBU members have to do is to continue to work on that basis. And then it will work out fine, I'm pretty confident. That's the internet address where you find everything, basically. As well, national results. There are lots of documents on that webpage. And that was my part. Thanks.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you indeed, Thomas. I suppose coming out of that, there's a foundation of optimism, hope, but trust being the key thing. And just within the last 24 hours, I was looking at a survey from Ireland, and it shows that the media are the least trusted. And that's the media coming well below church, politicians, state, and bankers. Always something there to think about. That gives us a foundation for moving on in our discussion about the lost generation. Sounds very biblical. I'd now like to invite the Director of Multimedia from RTP, Pedro Galveias. All yours.
Hi, everybody. And I hope that you are ready for something completely different from what you saw until now.
We play for the legacy. We play for the prestige. We play for the glory. We play for one goal.
You see this type of cheering, this type of applause normally that is connected to a big sport event or big entertainment show like a concert. And what those people were actually seeing was
And they're just going to
this.
pile straight up towards those super
Okay?
minions in the base.
You probably don't get most of what's happening, but the players are right on the bottom there, 2 teams of 5. The game is called League of Legends, and it's 5 against 5. The main objective is to destroy the tower of the enemy team. And what happened here is that one player by himself destroyed alone the tower. So it was this big excitement for the team and for the audience. So this is eSports, okay? eSports is online gaming, of course, but also competition. And let's take a look of the four of the most important games that we have at this time, okay? The top tier there, the tier 1, you can see 4 games there. It's League of Legends and Dota 2. Those games, both of them are a multiplayer online battle arena game, where, like the one that we saw, like the first one. We have also Counter-Strike Go, that's a first-person shooter where you have 2 teams competing against each other and sort of capturing the flag. And the other one, Hearthstone, is a card game in a sort of like Magic the Gathering. And what sets apart Tier 1 from the other games is the hours watched by month, okay, and the monthly active users. As you can see there, for Tier 1, the month's average users go below 8 million, okay, go above 8 million. The monthly hours watched go above 20 million, and the annual prize pool for the sports go above 5 million. So these are impressive numbers already. Now some audience numbers. At this stage, around 1/6 of the world population is aware of esports. I don't know, maybe nobody here knew about these numbers, I don't know. Or, okay, are you aware? So 1/6 of the world population is aware of these, and 300 million watch it at least once a month in 2016, okay? Of the 1 billion people aware, 22% are European, which is very good compared with market penetration in the United States. But of course, the Chinese domination is, because of the population, is also important. And they, at this stage, are becoming much more stronger in terms of owning the teams and owning also the publishers. In terms of revenue, 696 million on the first quarter of 2017. And let me just point for the increase year on year, 41%. Also, let me point to the media rights for the first quarter also, 95 million. Advertising, 155 million. And sponsorship, 266 million. On the right, you can see that that's the list. This is one of the major tournaments in the world right now. It's actually managed by a broadcaster, by TBS. It's Counter-Strike Go, E-League, and they have that broadcasters already doing the broadcast for the championship. But how can compare esports? Can we compare esports with traditional sports? NBA, a final, the last year's final, went to Game 7, and it was the third most watched game of NBA history, and it got 31 million viewers on TV. On the other side, League of Legends, the world, as they call it, sold out the Staples Center in LA in only about 3 hours, and had more digital viewers than the NBA finals had on TV, 43 million viewers. So esports are becoming a very, very big thing. Dota 2, the international, has the biggest prize money, as you can see there. League of Legends World Championship is the most watched tournament, as you can see also there. And Intel Extreme Masters, organized by ESL, has the biggest number of in-venue attendees. And so if traditional sports don't adapt fast, they might be in some danger. But where do people watch esports if not on TV? Because it's something that you don't usually see on regular broadcasters. Well, they watch it on a platform called Twitch. This platform was bought by Amazon 3 years ago for $1.1 billion. And they have impressive numbers. The daily minutes that an average Twitch user spends on the site is huge when compared with Facebook and YouTube. You see, it's more than double the numbers of Facebook. And they have more than 100 million unique monthly users. 500,000 of them are Portuguese, and the number of broadcasting people monthly keeps on rising. Because have in mind that everybody can be a broadcaster with this platform, but not everybody can generate revenue from it. So, as you can see here, the Tier 1 sports stand at the top of the list of the most watched sports on this platform. Yes, in these 2016 numbers, more than 1 billion hours of League of Legends was watched. And this is both eSports streams from competitions, 90% of the numbers, roughly, and players streaming personal time like practices, walkthroughs, and so forth. And with all this attention drawn to the competition, of course that major sports clubs will arrive, okay? And now they start buying teams for esports competitions. And if you have the stars, if you have millions watching and cheering, you have the brands. They are also coming to the ecosystem, and not just computer brands like in the beginning. Now they are major mainstream brands. And broadcasters. Okay, BBC experimented with League of Legends World Championship in 2015. Sky had a gaming channel called Jinx that they converted to an esports channel. And TBS, as I told you, launched the league. And of course, in Portugal, RTB had to lead the way. And we launched RTP Arena Esports last year. So to launch the project in May last year, we made a teaser video, aired it on TV and posted on social media. And the numbers were very, very, very interesting. We got, without spending a single euro, so only organic traffic, we got 2 million people. Keep in mind that Portugal has only 10 million people, 10 million people of population. We got an organic reach of 2 million. It's a very interesting number. And the project consists of 6 main pillars. Can you put this on? It's a weekly TV show that has late night Wednesdays and premieres in our OTT platform, OTT Play. A website, of course. A weekly radio show every Friday with the anticipation of what will happen in the next week. Also social media, live events. We are partners with the major organizers of live events, Comic-Con and do live broadcast from the gaming part and also from the event. And also, we did last year a scripted series called The Players, where the story was about a group of young people that wanted to have sports. And the numbers were very, very interesting. We have reached a third of the available audience, estimated in 500,000 people in Portugal. And the numbers have improved monthly. The TV show has now more than 3,000 viewers, okay, on web, and average of 55,000 viewers on TV. And have in mind that the show airs at 1 a.m., so it's quite interesting. So what's up next for us? We want to be where the gamers are, so we did a content and commercial partnership with Twitch to broadcast our channels and our programs there. We are also trying to be more in-depth in the value chain, in a way that we can drive the show, because it's not that professional yet in Portugal. So we are working with commercial partners and event organizers to build a eSports brand in Portugal. It's called eSports Series 2017. And we are working with EBU, with Thomas there, in a Eurovision eSports event. And maybe next year we will have the Eurovision eSports Masters 2018. And for all of these, we must deal with licensing. These are the main issues that you must focus if you want to get onto this. Licensing, because we have to license content both from Portuguese stakeholders and from international stakeholders. We must improve the production values, and also to nurture the ecosystem, the players, the teams, the fans. So if you find this interesting, of course, I'm available to talk to you personally if you want to. And I'm asking you, what are you waiting for?
I can't understand people watching somebody play a computer game.
It's still not a sport.
It shouldn't be on a sports network.
But I don't know if athlete is the right word.
Thank you.
I think the future has arrived. It's very much the present. I like the idea of a national broadcaster getting into the middle, getting into the thick of the future and making it happen in the now. So many of us are used to the concept of that was never tried before, it will never work, we couldn't possibly do that. Thank you. Final speaker in this session, Esben Seerup from TV2 Denmark. Having been to his station, having seen some of the stuff that's going on there, it's fascinating. I think we really do have the three divine persons here this afternoon. Esben.
Thank you. I will start just to present a little about our television station. What you see on the left, that's the whole strategy we have been working for the last 2-3 years. Last spring, we finalized 3 years of major changes, and the whole core is, what are we here for? We are public service journalists, and our task is to report news for the public. And we have been working very hard to cut up what is important, what is the relevant stories for our audience, and what is not. So the model we are working at is that the same story, we need to identify the best stories of the day from our region, and then publish it on different platforms. It sounds easy, and today it is almost easy, but 2-3 years ago it was very confusing, because we had television reporters who had very big difficulties in understanding why we should publish on other platforms than our own. On your right, you can see a very good, I think, slogan that we try to understand all the time, that the new television screen is not what we used to be, what I used to be, but the future is on on the small screens in different times during the day. So this is the basic for what I'll show you, and what we have been found out the last year, and it's only for the last 12 months, is that we have never had better opportunities to connect to a young audience than before. Because in these small 30 years we have public service regional television in Denmark, no young people have ever been seeing the programs. We know that. When I was 20 years old, I didn't see regional news because it was boring, it was for the grown-ups, and I didn't want to spend my time. But today, we have the biggest opportunity ever to connect to the young audience. I have 3 small examples from the last couple of days that we published, and the point that we have found out is that the young viewers, they love regional news, especially, or maybe only, if we produce news with items they can connect to, they understand that is from their world. To the left, you can see it's a Facebook story because we also broadcasted it on television, but nobody responded to that. But when we posted the clip on the Facebook, we got immense reaction. It's a story about a local school that expelled 16 students because they have been smoking and drinking alcohol. They're 15, 16 years old. And the whole discussion raised on the Facebook site about 350 comments from young people and their parents as well, some supporting the school, but a lot also finding the school far too harsh. And actually that story just kept on rising for the last week, and I just read yesterday that the parents, some parents to these 16 expelled students are now going to the Ministry of Education to try to force the school to pull it back. And that's due to this story that they have connected to. The second one, that's just an ordinary school, an ordinary last school day. And we had that for the television news show last night, but we also posted it on the website and also on the Facebook. And we can see in the reactions that the young are sharing it, they are commenting it, and they like it because it's a story from their life. It is as simple as that. And then the third example is from last week, just a soft, nice story. At the local zoo, there was a manatee baby born. I don't know if you know the manatee, it's some sort of whale. And we got together with the local zoo and made a competition. What should the name of this manatee baby be? And more than 10,000 got into the website and voted within 3 days, and many of them young people. Just a sweet, soft story, but it's a story that the younger audience can connect to. It's not that important or for grown-ups. It's from their daily life. There's been in Denmark a lot of focus on how to connect to the young within the last year. On the website here, you can, on your right, you can see a local, a national free paper, formerly known as Metro. Now it's called MX in Denmark. And they are very strong on social media in Denmark. They created last year what they call 5 social criteria to pinpoint the stories to publish on Facebook that they point out every day. And they're a little different than the news criteria that most journalists are educated in. The first one is it has to be, they're obviously in Danish, but you can see the translation at the right. It has to be about me. The reader on the Facebook has to connect immediately. This is a story for me. Second criteria is what the fuck? A sensation. What is this? Something strange. I want to comment. I want to share it. Number 3 is a feeling. It has to give me a feeling that either I'm getting angry or I'm getting very happy or provocated by it. Number 4 is I would like to be part of this. I would like to engage in the story. And again, this is the Facebook thinking you have to bring into your newsroom in the morning when you select the stories and you try to point out how to report it later at the day. And the last one is it has to seduce me. You need, again, you can see all 5 criteria is about the feelings. It's more about the heart than the brain. Last year there was a big survey at the Southern University of Denmark. There was a guy, probably the guy in Denmark that knows most about young people and their relationship to media. His name is Aslak Gottlieb. He just last week published a new book about his fellowship at the university, and he found out that young people, big teenagers and also the 17 to 20-year-old group are very interested in news. They are very interested in news stories and also like old brands like we are working at. But they have more or less the same things they are looking for. And he found out that 5 other criteria that works if you want to publish to young people. Firstly, it has to be trending. It has to be part of the young people's life. So it's very important that you, in your newsrooms, have your ears open, watch what's happening, see what's the fields on the Facebook sites, what are they telling you. The school story I told you about just before was very obvious that there were strong feelings among all the pupils at the school. They found the school was too harsh, so it was trending. It has to be meaningful. You need to spend a little time explaining in your story why is this story important for them, because they don't connect to just another news story. Why should I care about this story? Again, engage, it's the Facebook thing. Surprise, we know that from traditional journalism, but also be constructive. The survey he made was very clear that a young audience don't respond to traditional conflict story. There's a problem here, there's a politician there, there's another politician there, and the story ends. They don't like it, they just skip it. They want some solution, they want us to bring something to the story. How can we solve this problem? The other finding is in Denmark that, we have heard it before, we must forget about television. It's today in Denmark, 1 out of 10 children in small families will grow up in a home without a television. And this is today. A survey shows that the 15 to 25-year-old people, they spend 2/3 of their time streaming television and only 1/3 of their time watching traditional flow TV. And this will grow in the coming years. But we also know that video is the key to tell story today. And who are the best to tell video stories? We are. So we need to give it a twist, find a way to connect these traditional knowledges we have to produce it in new forms. What we do in our station this fall, there will be a local election in Denmark, which is very important for regional television stations like TV2 Fyn and the 7 other TV2 regions in Denmark. And we have 2 campaigns in head this fall. The first is the 8 TV2 regions where we are part of. We are just about finishing the first draft of how to engage the young voters in in this election. The plans will be presented next week, so I've only seen the blueprint of it, but it's like a more activating goal for this campaign. Try to engage the young people in getting to vote, and there will be a music video that will go around nationally, and we will try to build a community about this music video, among other things. We will locally try to connect to this national campaign with a very big local campaign where we have gone together with the local public service radio station in our region, 2 local newspapers, and also 2 national television stations, DR and TV2, and also the local university that has a journalistic faculty. And next week we will meet with headmasters and teachers from all gymnasiums and youth educations. All have agreed to participate in this campaign. It's about 25,000 students in the gymnasiums, and we will connect with the university journalism students. About 100 students will go out on all these schools for maybe a week, maybe 2 weeks, and try to make a community with one person, get out and vote. And the slogan for the campaign will be, this is in Danish, stem eller luk røven, vote or close your arse. Because this is some of the measures that we need to use to connect to the young people and try to get them through. The local project will be restricted in a way that there will be 12, 15 young reporters, and they must only publish on digital or social media platforms. No television and no newspapers. So that's one of the limitations for them. Yes, that's it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And I think because, thank you again, I think because of time constraints, we have time for one question.
Yes.
One question?
If there is. If there is not, then I will suggest you to talk to our panelists directly in a hall. Then we will have a short coffee break before next session. Thank you once more. I think that all of us have to think a lot about millennials after your presentations. Please give them one more applause.